People have watched us on television, and they always come up to me. They're all excited. They think I'm some sort of celebrity. They need to talk to my kids. They'll explain to them I'm not. And so anyway, they always come up, and they always say, "Oh, Pastor Mark, so Pastor Mark, we love you." And I said, you know, the only reason you like me is because you don't actually know me. And if you knew me, you probably wouldn't actually like me.
Welcome to Church of the Rock from Winnipeg. Stay tuned to this week's thought-provoking message from Pastor Mark Hughes.
Today I'm going to carry on this series that began a few weeks ago entitled The RelationSHIP. And we've been talking about the fact that we're all on this cruise ship called Planet Earth in this cosmic experience to see how we can get along by put together in a confined space. Well, today my message is entitled No Man Overboard. And that's my nautical version of the military motto that I'm sure you've all heard, no man left behind. How many of you know that expression? And the military has used it for a couple of hundred years, and it has to do with the fact that if there's a comrade that has fallen in battle, then you leave no man behind. And of course, because we got the nautical theme here going, I'm using the term no man overboard, which means exactly the same thing. Let me ask you this question. Anybody in the room fans of, or at least familiar with the Discovery Channel program of The Deadliest Catch? Anybody know The Deadliest Catch? A few of you? Any of you real junkies on that show? A few of you are really into it. It's a crazy show. I mean, these guys are up in the Bering Sea fishing for Alaska king crab in the middle of the winter. It's the most inclement job you could imagine with the weather and the waves coming over and freezing on the bow of the boat and these huge storms. The water is absolutely frigidly cold, and it's considered one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. Every episode somebody gets injured, and every season somebody dies. And usually they die by being washed overboard, and the water is so cold they only have a few minutes. Actually, those of us that are Winnipeggers know exactly how long you can last, because we have Dr. Gord Giesbrecht, Professor Popsicle, and he's explained it to us that you have 8 or 9 minutes. That's if you don't panic, which you will, right? Because we don't have a big vat of ice water at home like he does, and he practices. And so what happened in season 3 was there was an actual episode called Man Overboard. And in this particular episode, one of the boats that has cameras on it, it's called the Time Bandit, it was actually looking in the distance, it wasn't too far away, at another boat, and on this that doesn't have cameras. In this particular boat, they were in the middle of the storm, and this guy is trying to tie down the crab pots, and a wave comes and just washes him overboard. And he's gone. And it was really intense because in a moment, these guys just sprang into action. You see, by the time that guy's own boat realized he was gone and turned around, he would have been gone. But the Time Bandit saw him, they sprung into action. The captain started heading towards where they thought he went into the water. The men immediately began to pull on their survival suits. They got to him, and the whole sequence only took about 3 minutes. And they were there, and they grabbed this guy, and they pulled him out of the water. He was almost gone. He was shaking. He was disoriented. He was falling. He couldn't stand up. They stripped his frozen wet clothes off him and threw blankets on him. And then in the most emotional and poignant moment of the whole thing, the captain comes down from the bridge, and when he sees this man, a man he doesn't even know, on a rival boat, he throws his arms around him and he hugs this man. And there's this male-to-male moment of emotion and relief that a man's life was spared. And you see, when we look at this picture of what happens at sea with men, this movie, this show, is not really about crab fishermen. It's really about relationship. I don't actually particularly watch it because these guys are too crude. They cuss like sailors, is what they do. and it's just too crude for me. But really the show is about relationship. It's about, you know, fathers and their sons working on these boats, and the friends and the brothers. And that's the real focus of these shows. It's all about relationship. And anytime you get stuck in a confined space with other human beings, that's when that relationship gets tested. And you see, in our world, in our day and age, men in particular have a hard time with intimate relationships. We have a hard time with male-to-male friendships. Women do a little bit better, but men, we have this machismo thing going, and we just have a hard time getting there. You know, I remember not so long ago we were at this reunion, kind of a high school reunion thing, and when people get together, your friends from high school, one of the things they do is they all drink. Of course, we don't drink, but so all these people are drinking, and I'm not. And about towards the end of the night, this old high school friend comes up to me, and he's all boozy and emotional. You know how that happens? You know, after a night, they're all boozy and all emotional and all maudlin. And he comes, he's, "Mark, I really love you, man." And I go, "Yeah, well, that's nice. I love you too, you know." He says, No. "I love you." And just as he said that, his wife walked up. Just as he's expressing his love to me, "I love you." And then he looked and saw his wife and says, "I love you too, honey." Super awkward moment. You know, the guy he hasn't seen for 20 years and his wife, and apparently he loves us both. He loves her too. And the problem is this English language we have, because we have one word for love. And you can love cars, you can love football, you can love pizza, and love your wife. All the same word. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about friendship, and we're going to talk about taking our friendship from wherever it is now, taking these friendships to a whole new level. And if you have found John chapter 15, we're going to start in verse 12. And Jesus is talking to his disciples, and this is what he says. "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." The word he used there is, guess what? It's agape. He says, I want you to love one another with an unconditional God type of love, just like I have loved you. And then he said, greater love, again agape, has no one than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you. I think I'll stop right there. You see, Jesus is saying their relationship has changed. I mean, at the beginning, he was the master, they were the servants, he was the mentor, they were the disciples, he was the coach or whatever it was, but their relationship over time had changed, and he says, you are no longer my servants, you are my friends. We have taken this to a new level, and I want you to love one another just as I have loved you. I want you to take this friendship to a new level. And then he begins to describe this friendship. And he says this, he says, I have chosen you. You're my friends because I chose you as my friends. And we all have an expression in our culture. It goes like this. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. And we have another one I like better. It goes like this. You can pick your friends, you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose, right? And so what, on that note, let's talk about taking our relationships deeper. Let's talk about taking our friendships to a new level. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you what I consider the 4 essentials of friendship. And here they are on the screen, and this is what they are. They're number 1, they are availability. Number 2, they are vulnerability. Number 3, they are honesty. And number 4 is adversity. And I know you're thinking, I don't know about that last one. Well, you will when we get there, and it's all going to make sense. So I want to talk about availability, and this is the very beginning of this whole journey. Because how does one get friends? How do you even start this thing where you get friends in this world? And you do it through availability. You make yourself available. And I'm going to give you real quick the ABCs of availability, A, B, C, and this is what they are. The first thing is this. You have to associate with others. I know this is so ridiculously simple, but I want you to think about this. People are lonely in this world. We live in a city of 500 or 750,000 people, and a lot of people are lonely in a crowd. And what you have to do is you have to associate with people. So you know what you need to do? You need to join a small group or a Bible study or a ministry or a class or take a course or start a sport. This church is the easiest place in the world to make a friend because we have so many classes and so many groups going on. All you have to do is join a small group, and guess what? You, by association, will make friends. That's how it works. Now, let me just give you a little caveat on this, because people think that you can make friends on Facebook. Yeah, I made a new friend today. And you click on a button and you make a friend, or you click on the button and the friend is gone, right? Let me tell you something about Facebook. These are not real friends, trust me. I mean, I got a request the other day, from someone I knew in grade 5. And I'm thinking, I didn't want to be his friend in grade 5. Why would I want to be his friend now, for goodness sakes? And those are not real friends. It's a great tool for connecting with your friends, but until you actually come face to face with them, then that's probably not a friend. Let me show you a comic. I love this comic. There you got Jesus. No, I'm not talking about Twitter. I literally want you to follow me. So the first thing is this: associate with others. Profoundly simple. That's the A. The B is be a friend. Now don't miss this, because the scripture says he who has friends is himself a friend. If you want friends, you actually have to be a friend to others. I know this is ridiculously simple, but it's actually the truth, and a lot of people don't know how to be friends to others. Jesus actually knew how to make friends because he knew how to be a friend. I love the fact that he invited himself over to dinner to Zacchaeus' house. He's in the tree, he walks by and he says, Zacchaeus, come down at once. I'm coming for dinner. This guy knew how to get involved with people's lives. He knew how to make friends. And I'm just going to say this bluntly because it's important. If you are one of these people and all you think about is yourself and all you talk about is yourself, nobody wants to be your friend. If you are completely self-centered, you are not being a friend. And we have all kinds of people that I meet from time to time that tell me, I just want friends, I just want friends. And all they do is talk about themselves and their problems and their needs. Nobody wants to be your friend because you don't know how to be a friend. So the first thing, the A, stands for associate with others, super simple. The B is be a friend to others. And the C is cultivate existing friendships. See, a lot of times we have friendships we already have, and we're not doing a very good job with them. And I was thinking about this in my own life, because as I get older and busier as I've been, my friends have got older and they've got busier, and I've got all kinds of friendships that I have not done a good job. I have not done a good job maintaining those friendships. And so now I've made an effort in the last couple of years, and when I run into someone and they say, let's do lunch. You know how that works? Yeah, let's do lunch. Yeah, let's do lunch. And do you do lunch? No. You walk away and you forget about it. Now when they say, let's do lunch, we say, okay, let's set a date. And you connect. And you have to think about the friendships that you already have, and you have to cultivate those or you're going to lose them. Friends become acquaintances. Am I right about this? You know I'm right about this. We have a couple in this church. Their name are Rick and Sharon. They were at the first service this morning. Sharon's actually on staff. Rick is on our board of directors, and he's actually, I would consider him one of our very most trusted advisors on our board. And so I've known him for a long time, but you don't know how long I've known him. And this morning I'm going to tell you just how long I've known this guy. I want to show you this picture. There we are. That's our grade 3 picture together. Zoom in so you can see how cute we were. I mean, we were adorable. I mean, that's me on the left, by the way. I am easily the best dressed guy there. I got a bow tie on. I got a vest. And I had great hair even back then, right? Rick, on the other hand, he's got better hair now because his dad used to shave his down to the wood. And so that picture is from 1965, but I didn't meet him in 1965. I met Rick in the first day of kindergarten in 1962, and we have been friends for 52 years, and we're still working together today. So the ABCs is associate with others, be a friend, and cultivate your existing relationships. We have to make ourselves available if we want to have friends. The first thing is availability. The second thing is vulnerability. Now Jesus said this. He said, this is how you know you're my friends and not my servants. He says, because I let you know what I'm doing. I've let you into my life. And so what Jesus does is he describes a friend as someone that you have brought into your life to be vulnerable with. You've allowed them to come in. And you see, unless you let people into your life, unless you let them, you're open enough that they see who you are, and you open your heart to them, and you open your life to them, then you're not really a friend. I got to tell you what happens to me. Like when I travel, people have watched us on television, and they always come up to me. They're all excited. They think I'm some sort of celebrity. They need to talk to my kids. They'll explain to them I'm not. And so anyway, they always come up, and they always say, oh, Pastor Mark, we love you. And I said, you know, the only reason you like me is because you don't actually know me. And if you knew me, you probably wouldn't actually like me. And they say, no, we do know you. And you know why they think they know me? Because I tell all my stupid stories. I mean, my laundry is just out there, isn't it? I mean, I just hang my laundry out there. Everything about me is out there. You know about my wife, and you know about my kids, and you know about my mistakes, and you know about my poor mother who gets into half my sermons, and you know all these stories about me. So people hear this, and they think they know me. But guess what? I don't know them. And you see, the thing about vulnerability is we have to make ourselves not only known, but we have to know. To know and to be known, it works both ways. I want you to think about something. Because our greatest desire in life is actually also our greatest fear. And our greatest desire in life is actually to be known and to know others, to have friends, to connect on a relational level. But it's also our greatest fear. And why is it our greatest fear? It goes right down to the beginning. If you go to the beginning of the story, you find that when man was created, Adam and Eve were created in the garden, they were created how? Naked. They were completely naked. You want to talk about vulnerable? There is no place to hide anything, right? I mean, I'm out there, baby. What you see is what you get, honey. And you know, that's the relationship they had, totally open. There was nothing to hide and nowhere to hide it. But then they went and ate of the tree. And it says when they ate of the tree, their eyes were open, they knew they were naked, and what did they do next? They hid themselves. Why? Because they were now embarrassed to be seen. Had anything changed? They were still the same on the outside, but now they were hiding it because part of this, the fall, part of the sin nature, part of the fall of man is the fear of intimacy. And so the thing we actually desire in life is to know people and to be known by them is also the thing we also fear because of our fallen nature. And if you're going to have friends, you've got to get past that. See, anthropologists tell us this. They say that we actually only have the capacity to probably have about 150 casual friendships or relationships. That beyond that, we can't maintain any more. I'm talking about casual. I'm not talking about close. And they actually have assigned a name to it. They call it the Dunbar number. And your Dunbar number for most people is roughly 150 people, give or take. And then they break it down further and they say, but you can only have so many close, intimate relationships, and that number is between 10 and 15. And about 10 or 15 is the most close relationships that you can maintain. And I love the name of it. It's called the sympathy group. I guess they feel sorry for me and want to be my friend, right? But that's not what it means. It means that they are people that I have friendships with on an emotional level. Interesting, the number is 10 to 15. How many disciples did Jesus pick again? Anybody remember? 12. Why did he pick 12? Because that's exactly the number that fit in one of those fishing boats. And that's how you develop. Did you notice this? I mean, think about it. Jesus gets 12 disciples because that's what he's going to build relationship with. And then he had 3, Peter, John, and James, that he had even a closer relationship with. But he spends 3.5 years developing this close, intimate relationship with these 12 guys. And every once in a while, he kept on putting them back in that boat. Did you notice? I mean, they were done fishing. They weren't fishing. But every once in a while, he says, guys, get in the boat and go to the other side. Why? Because if you really want to test a friendship, get in a boat and go into a storm. And then you will have that friendship tested. So he keeps on sending them out. And he doesn't, I love it, he doesn't go with them. He says, you guys go, I'll watch from the shore. If you have any trouble, I'll just walk out there and save you. And so they go out there, all kinds of things happen. And you know, he's trying to get their relationships to go to a new level. He knows in the middle of the lake, in the middle of the night, in the middle of a storm, in the middle of a boat's the perfect place to do it. So there's these 3 guys. They're in a lifeboat in the middle of the ocean. A bottle rolls up. They pull the cork. Out comes a genie. The genie says, you get 3 wishes, 1 each. So the first guy says, I just want to be home. Poof, he's gone. The second guy says, me too. I just want to be home. Poof, he's gone. The third guy says, I miss my friends already. I wish they were back. Poof, you know what happens next. All right, so the first thing is availability. The second thing is vulnerability. And the third thing is honesty. I know some of you are thinking, well, where do you find honesty in this passage? He said, you are my friends if you do what I command you to do. And I know you're looking at that. Oh, so that's how I become a friend? I obey you, I'm your friend. I have friends like that. I call them employees, right? But you got to look a little deeper than this. What is he saying? What is he saying when he says, you're my friends if you obey me? What he's saying is this. You've got to look deeper. He's saying that you're my friends because you trust me enough to know that if I say something, you'll do it because you know I've got your best interests in mind. And he was talking about the level. He was not talking about obedience. He was talking about trust. And trust is the very essence of any relationship. I'm going to tell you a story that you're not probably even going to believe. You're going to think it's some sort of urban legend, but trust me, this is a true story. When I was growing up, we had these friends. We had 7 kids, and they had 7 kids, and we were friends with all these kids. And their dad had a peculiar way of bringing a rite of passage in the lives of the boys. He didn't do this with the girls, but every one of his sons, he did this. When they were like 10, 11, something like that, he would put a ladder up on the garage and tell them to go climb on the garage roof, which any kid's willing to do. And then he would stand there in the backyard like this. He says, now jump, and I'm going to catch you. And then they would jump, and he would step out of the way and let them fall to the ground. And then he would say to them, let that be a lesson to you. Never trust anyone. Now that's easily one of the stupidest parenting techniques I've ever heard of in my life. And you say, I don't know if I believe that. Well, I was friends with these kids, and every one of the boys told their version of the same story. And they were wrecked by what their dad did. How could you ever trust your father again? How can you ever trust anybody again? And see, here's my point. If you don't have trust in a relationship, what do you have? Nothing. You don't have a relationship. If we can't trust one another, we've got nothing. So a few weeks ago, I'm out in the foyer, and I'm talking to one of the young guys. He might be here this morning. I was talking to one of the young guys. I was asking him what he was up to. He said he had started a business. They were doing renovations, and it was going really well, and he was all excited about it. And I don't know why I asked him this question, but I did. And I said, so are you doing everything according to code? Are you pulling permits and doing it all right? Because we don't want to have to bring Mike Holmes in here and check out your work because he gets mad, when you don't do it right. Now, I'm sort of horsing with him. He said, oh, absolutely, Pastor Mark. We're pulling permits. We're doing everything according to code. We want to be a reputable business, so that's what we're doing. I said, well, that's good for you. I'm glad to hear that. And I sort of congratulated him. We went our way. So the next week, I'm done preaching. I'm walking over to my seat there, and this young man comes over and says, Pastor Mark, can I talk to you for a moment? I said, sure. He said, last week when you asked me that question whether we were pulling permits, I said, yeah. He said, I looked you right in the face and I lied to you. And he says, we're not pulling permits. And I said, well, why'd you lie to me? He said, I lied to you because I didn't want to look bad. And then he said, I went home and I realized by lying to you, that actually makes me look bad. And he says, I felt so bad about it. And he says, so what I did was I went to my partners, who both don't come to church, and I went to them and I said, you know what, I can't do it like this anymore. And we need to start pulling permits, and we need to start doing everything by code, and we need to start doing things right. And we've got to be a business that is reputable and honest and can be trusted. And they looked at him and said, well, why didn't you say so? If that's how you want to do business, we're willing to do business that way. And this kid came, this young guy came, and he confessed this to me. Now, I was not mad at him for lying at me. I was thrilled that he came clean. I was proud of him. I thought, that is a good move. And I patted him on the back, and I said, good for you. Because you know what? We all make mistakes. He had a momentary lapse in judgment, didn't he? Where for that moment, he said something that, he later regretted. But he came and he made it clean. And you see, if we don't have honesty, if we can't trust one another, we don't have anything. We don't really have a relationship. Now see, this is what it says in the book of Proverbs. It says this. It says, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but deceitful are the kisses of an enemy. Now, think about that. Because Judas betrayed Jesus with what? With a kiss. He betrayed him with a kiss. He was supposed to be his friend, but he turned out to be his enemy. And so that part we understand. The deceitful are the kisses of an enemy. But what does that mean, faithful are the wounds of a friend? I'll tell you what it means. It means that we need to have relationships that are honest enough that we can speak the truth to one another, even for fear of hurting that person. We will say it because we love them enough to be honest with them. Do you know what I'm getting at here? If you really care about something and they're doing something that is wrong or hurtful or will hurt you or hurt them or hurt other people, we need to have enough depth of relationship that we can tell them the truth. That's what it's talking about when it says faithful are the wounds of a friend. And we have a great story with David. And David committed adultery. and David took Bathsheba as his wife, and David had her husband conspired to have him killed. And he did this terrible, horrible thing. And there was only one person that confronted him, and it was his friend Nathan. Nathan, who was the prophet. He was the only one who had enough courage and enough equity to be able to speak the truth into David's life. And he confronted him on this, and David made it right. You see, that's what it means that faithful are the wounds of a friend. See, this is how I would say it. If you have true friends in this world, you know what a true friend is? It's someone who can look you in the eye and say, you're an idiot. That's what a true friend is. I know the whole staff is thinking right now, I must be Mark's best friend. That's what they're thinking. So the first thing is this. The first thing is availability. The second thing is vulnerability. The third thing is honesty. And the last and the final thing is adversity. Now, this is what Jesus says. He says, no greater love does a man have than to lay down his life for his friend. And he says, a friend is someone who is able to face and go with and through adversity with another human being. That's what a true friend is. The friend isn't someone who causes adversity. The friend is the person that can endure adversity with that person. That's what this is talking about, our ability to be able to go through anything, come hell or high water. We're going to stand with that person. It doesn't matter what mistake they've made. It doesn't matter how much they've messed up. It doesn't matter what they've done. It doesn't matter if everybody's turned against them. I'm with them. You know, there was a British newspaper that did a poll a number of years ago. It was a contest, actually. And they said, what is the definition of a friend? And there was actually thousands of submissions came in of the definition of a friend. You know what the one that won was this? It was this. It was a friend is one who comes in when the whole world is going out. You see, when everybody turns against you, the friend that you have is the person who still stands with you. The person that's still standing is willing to endure and go through that adversity. And even if you're wrong, even if you messed up, the friend will stand with you during that adversity and during that struggle and will never give up on you. That's what a friend is. Let me close with one final story here today. Someone in the congregation gave me a book. It's called God in the Foxhole, and it was written by an army captain, and he collected all these stories about God working in wartime and Christians in the foxhole and the trenches. And he's got one emotional story after another, but there's one particular story that stood out, and it was this. It was during the Second World War. There was these two really good friends. They were part of the same platoon, and they had made a pact. They said that if one of us gets wounded, we will not leave the other one on the battlefield. No man left behind, no man overboard. And they made that pact within their heart in agreement with one another. Well, sure enough, in one of these battles, one of them got injured, and he was fatally wounded on the battlefield, and the other one made it back to the trenches. And when he heard and saw that his friend was out there, he turned to the sergeant and he said, I'm going after my friend. And the sergeant forbade him and said, you are not going. You will not make it. You will die, and then there'll be two dead instead of one. He did not listen because he had made a pact to his friend. And he climbed up out of that trench and he ran across the battlefield and he got to his friend and he grabbed his friend and he carried him on his back all the way back to the trench. And just as he got back to the trench, he got a bullet in his back. And he fell, the two of them fell into the trench, and by then his friend was already passed away and dead. The sergeant came over and he was angry. And he said, I told you not to go. I told you your friend is dead and now you're going to be dead in a few minutes. I told you not to go. I told you it wasn't worth it. And this man in his dying moments looked up and he said, no, it was worth it. Because when I got out there, my friend, before he died and passed away, looked up at me and said, I knew you would come. He said it was worth it. And moments later, he passed away too. That's an extreme story. But what does the scripture say? No greater love does a man have than to lay down his life for his friends. What's a friend? He's someone who's available, someone who's vulnerable, someone who is honest, and someone that will go through any adversity that life dishes out. That's what a friend is.
Church of the Rock has services every Sunday at 1397 Buffalo Place, and we invite you to join us when you're in the Winnipeg area. If you'd like a booklet to help you understand more about God's gift of forgiveness and reconciliation through Jesus Christ, please contact us, and we'd be happy to send you a free copy of the Book of Hope. Visit our website at www.churchoftherock.ca. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.